Spoiler season for Riftbound continues to march on. In our last video, we got a lot of that Noxian might really coming forward for the aggro players, but if you're like me and more of a controller combo player, you might be thinking, when am I going to have my fun? When do I get some sweet new cards, right? Well, don't worry, because in today's video, we finally got some of those engines that we were missing that really help smooth out these deck lists I'm so excited to dive into. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Up first, we have a 3 energy, 3 might Eager Apprentice. Now, this clearly is going to go with the Kaisa deck, so if you are a Spell Slinger enjoyer, this is just one of the 2 cards I think that you are going to be very, very excited about. And while technically this could also go in the Ahri deck, I think that this is a key point with the Kaisa just being all more spell focused, or really doubling down on what it wants to be doing with this champion card, that if you have to put this with one of them, it is definitely going to go with Kaisa. So while it's on the battlefield, the energy cost of your spells you play is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1. So anytime that we have enablers like this that effectively reduce the cost of cards in our hand, so spoiler, we can play more cards on our turn, this is very well received. And now I also want to start to bring up, in case you missed our versus video, that if you go second, you get 3 runes on your first turn, which is actually very important for today's video for how some of these cards line up. And Eager Apprentice is absolutely the first one of them. When you're able to push this forward on a battlefield on turn 2, you will very easily be able to have the runes to play a variety of spells or multiple spells in a turn that'll make holding that battlefield that much easier. And of course, unless your opponent is able to accelerate into some key plays, most likely there is going to be a free battlefield spot available. So Eager Apprentice is always going to be able to come online if you're going second and able to find this on your turn 1. So this is a key card that we want to see very early on in the Kaisa deck. And while we are still waiting for more of these spells that will really make this deck shine, or archetype shine through, I think we can easily agree that Eager Apprentice is something that we want to be holding on those various battlefields. So by having that 3 might, you do have a bit of defensive capability. And of course, once we get more of those Fury or Mind spells, they're really going to make this come together. I think we're going to see the true powerhouse of this card. But again, because we get 3 runes going second, I definitely think this is going to be a deck that, if it lines up for a bunch of 3 costs, going second will almost always be correct, and you're always wanting to maximize the value of Eager Apprentice, which is going to be able to do that on your turn 2 play. So very solid card. I think this is something that will end up being a 3-up for all the reasons I just listed in the Kaisa deck. What I do think about, though, is will this also then make the cut in some of the decks that aren't maybe as spell focused, or will we just see some other 3-costed cards that, you know, rival this spot where we are playing more or less spells but more units traditionally, right? So that will be kind of the tipping point if this gets included in the other decks. Moving on from there, we have Garbage Grabber, and this is just a cute little guy. 2 energy to play this gear. Recycle 3 from your trash, pay 1, and draw 1 card. Now, it is a gear, so it's very easy to keep it on your battlefield, which is nice. But one thing to note about this card is that it does have that heavy recycle 3 cost, meaning this is something that you're really going to want to play more of the mid to late game to get the most value out of. When we think about these decks in mind and being able to go through a bunch of cards, playing a bunch of either cantrips, which for those that don't know are cards that replace themselves and have an effect, we are very quickly going to be able to stack up a ton of cards in our trash that eventually we will want to recycle. And I have to bring up this good old classic Elixir of Life. And while we're not there just yet, we have seen in the past that if we get a type of mill strategy, or if there's going to be something that just cares about milling out your opponent, which you do get to score a point if your opponent goes through their deck, this card could really help salvage that. So not anything that we've seen in set 1 spoilers so far, or the legends that are really all in focused on that mill strategy, but this definitely has a even future case application or card that we want to kind of earmark for, because that recycle 3 can help churn through your deck and making sure that you're seeing the right cards at the right time when combined with cantrips, that you can quickly put together only the good cards back into your deck, meaning you can also control what cards you're drawing in the very late game. And as we've seen time and time again with these control decks that can either stall out or need to really dig for their key pieces, just getting that extra draw will matter a ton. So Garbage Grabber, while it doesn't have a direct home right now, I think it just in general fits a spot for any type of late game style of deck that is going to have a lot of cantrips or cycling through the deck that you want to be mindful of. I think this will be applicable in all type of spell heavy type decks, but for Ahri, which is definitely going to be playing more of a most likely mid-range control and have a lot of heavy units as well, and not just oops all spells like Kaisa, I think it'll still be a 2 of. And we also know that we have sideboards, and we are waiting for more information on that end. But as we know that we have today 8 cards available to our sideboard, I think somewhere in the main deck and sideboard, you are absolutely going to be playing 2 of these. If it's a really heavy control meta, right, maybe you play 3 in some extreme situations if we have more cards that either help you discard or churn through your deck even faster, but 2 is most likely going to be the correct spot for this guy. So again, something that is going to be a little bit more meta dependent, but I think something that will still find a home in a lot of the blue style of decks. Now, the card that is absolutely the star of the show, and again, I could just talk forever about this card, is going to be Sona Harmonious. And this does truly go with every single Calm deck, at least based on these spoilers so far. So 4 energy, 4 might, while I'm at a battlefield, ready for runes at the end of your turn. Notably, this is also a 4 rune card, so this means if we were going first on turn 3, we're promoting it to a battlefield. With having 4 might, we can most likely clear the way with having enough runes available to us. And then at our turn, we say, okay, we're going to untap all these runes. Spoiler, I have all these various spells that I'm still holding off, right? By allowing you to still promote your board state, by meaning playing a extra unit to your base, and then still having runes available that you can protect this with either a Wind Wall, right, just the most iconic, counter spell that we're going to have, or various battle tricks like all of these that we have, right? There is a lot that you can look forward to doing with this card. So I do expect that this is one that is going to be around forever. This is definitely, for me, going to be a starting 3 of in so many decks because of what it allows you to do in Calm, and because Calm is such a reaction-based domain, or color, if you just want to say green color, right? Sona just absolutely is everything that we want to be doing. It does cost a power, meaning we do have to recycle 1 or have the seal to pay for the 1 power cost. But again, for what this allows in those style of decks, be it the Ahri, be it the Leona that we're going to talk about shortly, or even Lee Sin, all of these decks are going to have some type of reaction tools, and maybe Lee Sin is the lowest of the priority of the ones that I just mentioned, but even being able to put a buff counter on this and then hold up battle tricks beyond that is going to feel pretty good if we're being honest. So this is one that I definitely expect to find a home, not only in set 1, but going forward, because again, being able to untap, uncover, recover those 4 friendly runes that just says, hey, I am the spell domain. I am the one that has all these battle tricks. Give me 4 runes back. Let's see what happens, right? It is going to be a headache for your opponent to deal with this card. So again, for me, as the more control style player, I love to see this. This is absolutely going to be a 3 of staple in all of my decks. I'm going to be getting my playset very early if I can. And I would not be surprised if, even if we go through the other 100-odd cards that need to be revealed, that this remains one of the best cards spoiled for the more controller combo-oriented decks because of how strong that effect is. For those that have maybe played with like Seaboard Muse, to make the Magic the Gathering reference, you know how insanely strong this effect can be. And especially when we're comboing this with the Ahri deck and getting to have Mind as well, so that we're getting a bunch of the extra draw effects in our deck as well. We are going to be churning through our deck, having a ton of spells at our side to just sling at our opponent. You are going to be feeling on top of the world with the number of options that this card is going to enable for you. And then speaking of more control pieces, and then going into Leona, we finally got Shen, a 3 energy, 3 might reaction card, which is super interesting and so flavorful for his effect. But he comes in with shield 2, so it actually goes up to a 5 might on defense. And then it also has tank, which means it has to have all the damage assigned to it first. So immediately this jumps out if we think about some of the other control pieces that we've seen in Calm, and if we've seen the various units that we want to protect. Shen does all of that and more. And if we're leaving up 4 runes with Sona, spoiler, this is a key card that we can also slam down if we are playing the Leona deck and protect it even more. Having 9 might on a battlefield and Shen eating up 5 of it, your card is going to stick very easily on that next turn. So this is already a very dangerous combo I see that is going to be annoying a lot of people. Yes, there are other yellow decks that this can go into, or other order decks, I should say as well, that this can go into. But I think this is one that because of how strong it is. For only 3 energy, you're going to be able to provide a 5 might swing. This is another card that it will absolutely find a home. I would not be shocked at all if this is going to be a 3-of for a lot of decks. But now the question really comes to, is this something that is going to find a spot in what is meant to be a stun-heavy deck, or how many other stun-based cards will we have to really get the most out of the green and yellow pairing? Or is this something that is just going to find itself as a true king of reaction-based effects to protect our other units, because that combination of shield 2 and tank is just so strong? We'll have to wait for more spoilers to see, but again, another card that is a minimum, in my opinion, as a 2-of, but as more of these battle strategies come online and we're trying to hold battlefields, would not be shocked in the slightest if this is going to end up as a 3-of. Now, the other key part for Leona, and now getting more into the actual synergy for the cards and how they combo together, we have a 7 cost, which is a lot, but 7 might Eclipse Herald. Shout out to the bird. So when you stun an enemy unit, ready me and give me +1 might this turn. And what's important to note here is that it just says +1 might and not a buff. So this is actually going to be a 9 might card for the turn when you're comboing it with various effects out of the Leona deck. And spoiler, 9 might is a ton to churn through, especially when you're able to just stun one of them to make sure you're not taking that extra damage. So by going up to 9, taking out their bigger threat and making sure that your unit lives, this card is very scary. So you're going to be able to force it through to claim a battlefield, and then on your next turn, when you were able to hold it because it's 7 might, you are able to stand it up at your battlefield, exhaust it, move it back to your base, stun something on your opponent's other battlefield that you didn't hold or get a point from, and then activate this and slam it forward into your opponent's base for, once again, 9 total might. And when you have some other unit that you likely played that turn that you're then moving it forward with a various effect, or that you played a couple turns ago to set it up, that is a ton of might with a stun behind it going to take a battlefield. So this does feel like one of the best finishers, or just high might finishers, I should clarify, that we're going to see for Leona. For getting that much, 9 might swing is a ton, especially when you count a stun behind it, which is really going to be more of like a 14-point swing, right? Let's say you stun one of their 5 might units, which means it doesn't deal damage back to you. So it helps out your math a lot in that instance. So when you need that last point, you need to capture both battlefields. Eclipse Herald is going to be the key finisher you look forward to, that is just going to slam down on that battlefield and have a huge might swing when comboed with Leona. Now, of course, the one big disclaimer that we're going to add here is that we need to see more of the stun type of mechanics. So this is a card that is definitely going to end up being a 2-of, because you never want to see it early in those lists, and being at 7 might, it is going to be a little bit hard to remove of itself. So Eclipse Herald, at least for given the current value of spoilers that we have so far, I think is absolutely a staple in the Leona deck. Of course, it only really goes in the Leona deck for how the stun mechanic works, at least for now. We might see more of that splash over for some of the other cards, but for where it wants to be, I think this is definitely the combination that you want to lean in on, right? Because it has both the calm restriction that we have, and then a lot of these stuff for the stun so far is order, making it the MVP for Leona. But we'll see what other tricks that calm might get if there's a hidden stun calm card out there in the near future. Now, the one that is going to give me nightmares guaranteed in the near future is Warwick. 6 cost, 5 might, but his might doesn't really matter in this situation. While it's nice to have a higher might, it's really the extra effect that he has. He enters ready, which means it is going to be a surprise attack. So again, very flavorful. But when I attack, kill all damaged enemy units here. And this is another one that we have to take a step back. And for those who have maybe not totally dug into the rule set yet or know how the interactions work, when you play a spell like Bullet Time outside of a showdown just sometime on your turn, that damage will stack until the end of turn. So we've seen this come up in my previous Versus video, where there was a super mega death rocket that went at a unit. It had, effectively 1 health left on it, and my opponent was able to send a Flame Chompers in and just knock out both my units, right? Well, with Bullet Time, pay any amount of power to deal that much damage to all enemy units at a battlefield. You can play the Warwick, play the Bullet Time, recycle just even 1, and then Warwick very quickly wipes out that entire battlefield. Now, to be fair, based on the cards that you may or may not be playing up against, like if it's something like tokens and it's just a bunch of ones, then whatever the bullet time is going to knock it out anyways, right? If they're going wide enough, or maybe they have the Darius that buffs it as well. Either way, Warwick is going to clean up the battlefield for you. But the real value, if you have something that's like a Volibear or something that's just a lot higher of a threat, and Warwick is able to come through and clear their unit, even if you have to spend 2 cards to do it, because it has that 5 might behind it, it's likely going to put you in a very winning position. Or in the best case scenario, if they're playing a lot of various mid-range threats, they have a bunch of maybe 4 to 5 might characters on it, you say, well, sorry, bullet time into Warwick is going to clear that entire battlefield for a very low cost of 1 unit and 1 signature spell. Now, with it being the signature spell, of course, that does lock this in to the Misfortune deck, which is going to be strong anyways. I think this is one that everyone is at least leaning towards for this. These 2 color combinations seem very strong based on current spoilers. But with Warwick's effect just being as strong as it is, if we get any other type of various damage-based abilities, Warwick will find itself in even more decks in the future. But will we see a more super low to the ground aggressive strategies kind of take the lead, or will we see more mid-range or control-heavy formats? That is where we have to wait and see what type of role Warwick will ultimately play. Again, if you're in the Misfortune deck where you want to be playing bullet time anyways, and it's in your colors, Warwick is a slam dunk. I think you're always excited to play this card in Misfortune, right? But when we think about some of those other combinations with orange, we don't have all the information just yet, so we might have to wait and see a little bit where it lands, but I definitely think this is one that you are going to be very excited to see in a lot of situations, at least for Misfortune. So again, another card for me that will most likely minimum 2 of, probably a 3 of, at least in the Misfortune deck, and we'll have to wait and see where some of the other cards line up in spoiler season. And last but not least, we have Wildclaw Shaman, which at the time of this recording, people are still trying to figure out the interaction between Cithria and this card, which I just assume that this, based on other card games, the stack works how you want it to when you have simultaneous triggers and you're able to get the buff out of that interaction. But at the bare minimum, let's just say that Blind Monk can buff up something. Good old Lee Sin. So we have a 4 energy, 3 might Wildclaw Shaman. When you play me, you may spend a buff to buff me and ready me. So it becomes a 4 might, comes in active, able to crash into a battlefield. And because you can play this still fairly early, it is going to be a surprise attack that your opponent has to deal with. So I do like this card from a more finally getting the buff plays that we've seen. Like we've seen set where it allows you to spend it and recall them exhausted, what have you, right? But we haven't seen a lot of what Lee Sin wants to be doing and getting extra buff counters on them. So I'm expecting that we are going to see a lot more of this style of effect on future cards. Admittedly, this one's not that exciting to me, but it's just one that you're probably playing anyways for how it's going to line up in the Lee Sin deck. Getting 4 might and getting that, haste style effect on turn 2 is going to be very, very fast at being able to crash into a battlefield and making sure that you're getting that point. And 4 might for your opponent's turn 2 can be a little difficult depending on what decks they're playing. So I think for that reason, it gets low enough where if you're going first and you're able to line it up with the Blind Monk, it can be really cool, but we'll have to wait and see what other, tech pieces that we might get in this combination to really make it shine. So that's all for today's Riftbound spoiler video. Definitely let me know what your favorite card was in the comments below. Are you an aggro player who's just waiting to see what more flex spots Darius gets? Or are you very excited that we finally got more of the control and combo pieces together and really seeing those engines come online? Definitely let me know down below. But with that, of course, more Riftbound videos coming up as more spoilers are out. I'm actually going out today to print more proxies because people have loved the gameplay video, so thank you so much for supporting that. Definitely going to try to get some more webcam games up and running here with the nice, clear proxies, and we'll see how the rest of spoiler season goes and which decks we focus on. But if you have a particular matchup that you want to see, also let me know in the comments down below. We'll see if we can make it happen. But until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.